Well, thank you very much, Samson. Let me say that even in my earlier discussions, I've always acknowledged the progress of work done or being done by Attorney General's Department and the allied institutions, that is the National Investigation, OSP, YOCO. I broaden it beyond oral. I'm talking about against corruption, not just oral. I have acknowledged that, and the status update given us by the Attorney General is quite commendable. My worry still remains the same, however. My worry is not about the speed of going into the courtroom. My worry is about when we arrive at the courtroom, what next? Because from my point of view, there are things which must change, or the legal framework must change to facilitate the early completion of these cases. One of them is the enactment of a law to limit the time frame within which these economic and organized crimes or looting or corruption cases can be tried. In fact, I take courage from the Supreme Court of Nigeria based upon Section 306 of their Administration of Criminal Justice Act and Section 40 of their Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act prevented, in-hearing appeals, that is, stay of proceedings. They allow you to appeal during the proceedings or during the hearing, but there is no stay of proceedings. So once a criminal trial has started, it continues to the end. And I think if we bring such a practice to Ghana, it will help us so that a case does not stay in the court for too long. Again, proving the guilt, proving beyond reasonable doubt that someone stole money, especially in the form of economic crime, in terms of corruption, etc., is extremely difficult because these acts are not done openly. These acts are not done by people who are as daft as me. It is done by very intellectual people, people who have a lot of control and power and can also influence systems, people, including even the investigators and prosecutors. So the principle of reversed burden, as implied or stated under Article 286, which says that from your previous declaration of assets and liabilities, if your subsequent declaration shows an increase in wealth, which does not match your sources of income, gift, or etc., then you have acquired these assets contrary to the Constitution. I think we should expand on that law and apply it to unexplained wealth, apply it to all corruption and corruption-related cases. Otherwise, it is going to be difficult. Two things are going to be happening. One, how to prove beyond reasonable doubt in the courtroom that even though we have 20 million in my Daniel Domelevo's account, over the years, when we put up the amount of money he earned, it will not even reach 1 million. So he is a thief. How to prove it will be difficult. And again, how long it will take before we come to the closure on that case is going to disturb us. And we know the practice is that the lawyers, forgive me, you people are lawyers, I'm not one, but one of your good practices is to delay cases till there's a change in government. Then you see nolli prosequa, or we are no more interested in the case. So these are my problem. Why right. I said the last time that I can't see the tunnel before
and from where you sit, you say, do you call this the low-hanging fruits as far as this kind of reform is concerned?
Exactly, because I think with the majority in Parliament, it should be easy to pass these laws, including internal auditing, because we want to also, as we recover the loot, we want to prevent additional loots. So internal auditors must be made independent so that they can be a check. They are on the ground. They are professional.
Talking about internal auditors, and there are various layers of individuals and institutions involved in how these monies get, dissipated, or stolen or misused. And yet, at each level, nobody gets to flag the infraction. The Attorney General gave us an example that if you take the DRIP, the district improvements, whatever it is, equipment, he speaks about overpayment for that project, the equipment that was brought to the government, overpayment by as much as $2 million US. How is this a mistake? How is this an oversight? He speaks about, because they were supposed to be paid $176 million US. Instead of that, they got paid $178 million US. So he's ordered that they refund the $2 million in excess. There were as many as 190 pieces of equipment that was added and cleared duty-free, as in tax exempt. It appears these would have gone to a certain individual or certain individuals, or they would have gone to the company, the JA plant pool. And this, we have lost tax income of over 38 million, 38.7 million in tax evasion. And that's not all. He speaks about over invoicing of between 100 and 300%. They paid, in some instances, an equipment that cost $40,000 US. The country paid $48,000 US for that equipment, more than twice. How did all of these things happen when there are checks every step of the way?
Yes, checks are there in the public financial management system. And I keep insisting that no matter how robust the internal controls, that is the checks and balances, are in the financial system, one, when there are no consequences for misbehavior, these controls will always be undermined because people will always collude and seek rent from the system. So they will try and come together. And at times to some people, not that they are part of the what do you call it, the plan or the plan to loot. They may not be part of it, but they fear for themselves, especially internal auditors. If they see this anomaly and they report it, most of the times what happens is that you lose your job. The minimum is to be transferred, or you remain on your grade or whatever. So for fear that the repercussion, and remember I always say, once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. For fear that they may be attacked, they don't say anything. I am not saying that all the others who pass, including the accountants, the officers who validate or certify, stores people who claim that they have received, etc., they are not complicit. They are all complicit. But then in financial management, we always have internal audit providing assurance that all these controls are in place and working properly and have been complied with. But when the internal auditor himself also becomes afraid and fear for his life or her life and cannot independently check the system, this is what happens. That's why I'm calling that they should amend the Internal Audit Act, send them outside the control and direction of the spending officers so that they can provide proper assurance and with which they know that you can't transfer me, you can't sack me, you can't do anything. It is just a professional work that I am doing as an internal auditor. So I cannot agree more with you that the system at times is sickening if you hear what is going on. But because we have allowed people to get away with it over the years, people feel motivated to do it, always.
Is it not curious to you, because of where you have the privilege of sitting previously and now, that at the National Service Secretariat situation, Oware-Mensah is able to use a company she's associated with to allegedly fleece the country this much? Initially, the losses, uncovered through the Fourth Estate's work and the Attorney General's work was estimated at 548 million Ghana cedis. But now, by the subsequent forensic audit, it has escalated the figure to 2.2 billion. Ghost names in their thousands, fake names. And then the bank, ADB Bank, also facilitates the loan process, all of these things. And nobody is checked. Osesibe entries situation, you find the system by which he's alleged to have received the money monthly. All of these are systems that we thought were, because they are virtual, they will help to check, the corruption. And as much as 8.2 million goes to him by the, accumulation. The buffer stock situation, Hanan Abdul Wahab, the laundering of 78 million Ghana cedis through 7 entities linked to himself and his wife and staff. How did that happen? In Mustafa Abdul Hamid's situation, the extortion that he's alleged and the money laundering of proceeds through property and business fronts. How do these things all happen and nobody gets to check anything? That's what I want us to focus on.
Samson, it comes back to the same answer that I gave you always, that there are no consequences for misbehavior. People have gotten away with it over the years, and it keeps happening, so it increases. Let me say, what you are saying disturbs me, especially the bank. Samson, if you go to the bank today and you wanted 100,000 out of your distance, you remember the controls they put in place. They want you to bring your Ghana card, validate and whatnot, etc. They checked it. So when you hear these amounts are going through the same banks, it means the fraudsters are also in the bank, or the banks are also colluded. We must have to go there and shake the banks, because I can't understand how some of these things can go through a financial institution which is not asleep. So we may have to look at it. But Samson, do you know what I fear most? My biggest fear is if national service payroll can be used to do this, then what is happening to the national payroll itself? The bigger payroll. I don't know what might be happening to it, because the national service payroll is a small one. So the one which pays teachers, pays doctors and all public servants, I don't know. Only God knows what may be happening there.
So your wish now is for swift prosecutions. The Attorney General gladdens the hearts of many Ghanaians when he says, whilst the investigations are ongoing, parallelly, they are also doing the asset tracing. And that's how come they are able to tell, the buffer stock former CEO, the many, homes he has bought, and all the things, including even watches worth 5 million that he buys. The wife who has suddenly amassed over 60 different expensive luxury bags. Do you have faith that these asset tracing will preserve these monies and properties from dissipation and concealment, even if the trial delays?
Yes, I do have faith. But my biggest problem is not the speed at which we get to court. In fact, that is commendable. What Attorney General gave us, including the Minister for Communication, also gave some status update about 80 people or more being investigated, etc. That is what we expect as a country. But you see, even if we are able to secure and protect these assets, and we are not able to put them into the public funds or consolidated fund early enough, they are still denying us the use of those monies. And the worry that I have, which many Ghanaians have, is that if we don't take time, these trials will going to continue until one day there is a change in leadership or government, and then we say we are no more interested in it. That is the fear.
No, but what can we do? What can we do as citizens? Because we must insist that these wrongs should not continue to be perpetrated, so that a government changes hands and suddenly people who are being prosecuted, are let go because they belong to the government.
Yeah, that's why I propose that two main things we must do. This reverse burden must be established in law, to say that once, Daniel, you are a public officer, your salary is 20,000. After a year, you make only 240,000, but you find 20 million in your accounts. You must explain to us how you got it, or you are a thief. Then that makes life easy for prosecution, so that we can get to the end of the game early enough. Again, if the law can prohibit stay of proceedings or appeals, so to delay the trial until we pray there's a change in leadership, I think it will help us. If in China, someone who stole and collected bribes, etc., to the tune of about 38 million, the trial took, I think, only 3 months. So why can't we give ourselves, look, we are not as fast as China. Why don't we give ourselves 9 months and say within 9 months or within 1 year, this trial must end, so that people don't steal, praying that they will remain in court until their government comes back and free them or take them off the hook.
When you read almost all of these stories, conflict of interest is so glaring. People, their own companies, insider dealings, using them to siphon these monies, allegedly, as we have seen. Sometimes I don't even want to use the allegedly, including where the Auditor General has finished their report on them. Let the other people prove otherwise. Otherwise, that is what it is. You have stolen. So when you see the widespread conflict of interest situations with almost all these individuals, what do you think? There's something wrong with the people who go into public office, right? The UK Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, just for underpaying, property tax, she has resigned. And guess what? She didn't breach the law of the UK. She only breached the ministerial code, which is not law.
I agree with you, Samson. The Constitution provides code of conduct under Article, I think, 284.
Correct.
Of the Constitution. And we have not expanded that. You remember the COPO, the Public Office Holders Bill has been on the table. In fact, it was on the table.
Conduct of Public Officers Bill, yeah.
Yes, Conduct of Public Officers Bill, yes. It was there before I became Auditor General. Several changes and amendments were made to it. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo promised that he was going to give us an international standard one. It didn't happen. And now we are 9 or 8 months again into another administration. And I think this must be passed into law, because the average Ghanaian thinks that once you are occupying public office, it is like a busuan or a family property. It is yours. You can use it for yourself, which is wrong. So I think we must pass that bill with speed, so that people are guided, properly guided. So people don't go into the public office thinking that the office is now their personal property.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Daniel.
I'll beg leave of you. Thank you.